Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
We've had 3 possessions, and so you just got to look at each series and say, why is that and how can we improve it? And if we go out in Friday night and have 3 touchdowns, you're still going to go back and look at, how can we be better? What do we need to improve? And so you're always looking back at what you got to do better, whether it's a positive outing or there's a lot left out there.
Was he talking to you there, Judd?
No, I wasn't there for that. I was.
Will he ever answer another question from you ever again after
absolutely.
the way that he looked at you with such disdain a couple weeks ago?
He absolutely doesn't care. Yes.
Yeah.
He's not a. Literally, he is the definition of Teflon. Like, it just rolls off his back.
He really, it's kind of a credit. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't let. Well, it's not that he doesn't let things bother him. I'm sure he does. He's a human being, but he just kind of keeps the same. He's the same Kirk demeanor pretty much all the time.
It's like when he was asked about, hey, did Griffin talk to you? Have you talked to him? Oh, yeah, that was last January.
That's yesterday's news.
Old story.
Yesterday's news. Mm-hmm. This is Purple Daily. This isn't yesterday's news. This is today's news. This is the future right here of media consumption with Judd Zolgad, Phil Mackey, executive producer Declan Goff, presented by Surly Brewing Company. And we have one mission statement on this show. We want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And we're going to get into a Mike Zimmer question I want to ask you guys, Judd's camp notes, and also random Viking of the week today. Also, thanks to TCL TVs. TCL is the favored TV of us here on Purple Daily, one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. And they have a new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. So we had a lengthy discussion on Mackey and Judd, our other daily show yesterday, about Mike Zimmer. And it stemmed from a tweet that I sent out that, hey, he owns a 64-47-1 record in 7 years as a head coach.
Yep.
Obviously, they haven't won a Super Bowl yet. That should be the main goal here for everyone. But his train wreck seasons are 7-9. So, like, with Zimmer, you get mostly winning seasons, and you get a floor that's going to be flirting with playoffs. Now, he's only won 2 playoff games, and his record against winning teams is very bad. He's only won 30% of games against winning teams. And so I'm not saying it's all great and people are, trashing him in an unwarranted nature. Like, there are things to nitpick. But here's my question to you, because I think the biggest nitpick of Zimmer in terms of, like, his philosophy is that he's old school. He's like a coach straight out of the 90s. It's defense, ball control, run the ball, don't take risks, right? Well, he came out a couple days ago at his press conference. I think you were there for this, Judd. And he said, I want, how do you guys score more points, preseason, whatever? And he said, I want touchdowns, and I want us to throw the ball down the field. That's what he said. He goes, we're not gonna score points doing 25 checkdowns to get to the end zone. Like, let's push the ball down the field. Mm-hmm. So my question to you guys is, if Mike Zimmer is evolving and he's soaking in and learning from the last 7 years, and if he's coming out now and saying, I want my offense to be more aggressive, I'm going to be focused on the defense, and so I'm not going to be like in every offensive meeting, but philosophically, I want us to be more aggressive and push the football down the field. Mm-hmm. How would that change in Mike Zimmer's mindset affect your opinion of him as a coach?
I think it's one thing to say it. I would need to actually see it executed on a consistent basis, that you could tell that there had been a change in mindset of approach to offense and what you allow your quarterback and receivers, and also in this case, Clint Kubiak, to do as the chief play caller. If I saw it, it would definitely change my mindset, because it would be a drastic change for him. I mean, he's a guy who loves to run the ball for a multitude of reasons, including the fact that it keeps his beloved defense in his mind. This might not be true, but in his mind, it eats up more clock when you are trying to run the football, and therefore your defense is not on the field as much. But yeah, if you had that type of sea change from Mike, and he was like, yeah, you know what, we should throw the ball more. John DeFilippo wasn't necessarily right, but he had some ideas that I probably should have been open to at the time, and I was not. I would say, yeah, that would be that would be the equivalent of not getting a new computer, but updating your hardware on your old one, and it at least runs faster.
I'm trying to envision Mike Zimmer like blue screen of death on his PC, just like hammering the keyboard.
Yeah,
What's
but I mean,
wrong with this damn thing?
It was like when Judd just upgraded his phone like 6 months ago for the first time in like 5 or 6 years. Like that's the same. That's the same thing. Judd now has the 2021 version of a pass heavy offense.
Yeah,
It's
Dex is
great.
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, how would it impact your opinion, Dex? If all of a sudden he's defensive guy, but he's also like, he's kind of Bruce Arians. He's like, hey, we're throwing the ball down the field, damn it, and you're just gonna have to figure it out, offensive line, because we're gonna take shots and we're going for it all.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you have to figure out the fine line, because obviously when DiFilippo came in, he had the right philosophy to a degree, but at the same time, Dalvin Cook who was battling some injuries, but still was a very premier back. I think they buried him a little bit. So you have to figure out ways to like balance it. Look at the Saints, obviously, with Kamara and Breeze a few years ago with Sean Payton. You know, they had obviously a top tier running back. They obviously still had Drew Brees still in his prime and still a damn good quarterback, and they're able to balance that out very successfully. Can you mold that into something similar? Also, same thing with the Rams when they went to their run to the Super Bowl. Like, Jared Goff was limited, and Jared Goff is not as good as a quarterback as Kirk Cousins was, but they had Todd Gurley, they fed the rock, they still passed a ton, they took a ton of deep shots. Can you find like that happy medium? And yeah, if that means letting Clint Kubiak take off those kids' gloves and give him the reins a little bit more, I'm all for it. But they do have to find the balance of still keeping Dalvin Cook involved, because it's not like Dalvin Cook is obviously any slouch. He's probably a top 3, top 5 back in the league. So finding that balance while still having a top 10 offense and taking shots, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Can I
go ahead?
Can I interpret, though, what I think Mike was saying? Because I think Mike is incredibly calculated, and I think there's a lot of times that he says things that we interpret to mean, oh, you might pass more, and he's like, not really what I mean. My interpretation of what he was saying is this. I think I know. It's crystal clear that since the whole non-vaccination quarantine of his starting quarterback, that he has taken a few shots at the quarterback play, specifically Kirk Cousins. I think what he was saying there was, I need my quarterback to be comfortable enough to be able to drive the ball downfield more. That doesn't mean that I want to pass more, but he played, and in Kirk's defense here, so I'm just telling you my interpretation, okay? So I am not dumping on Kirk here. But in Kirk's defense, he played 3 series, his first 3 series of the preseason. Now, in my opinion, in practice, he's not looked good. But if we're just taking game film, 3 series. Mm-hmm. And he was checking down. He was doing, I think he completed 5 of 7 or 5 of 6 passes. So the completion percentage was high, but it was ineffective. And I think Mike was saying, well, if that's what Kirk's going to do, I mean, I could get Case Keenum back here to do that. So I think it was, along with the Jake Browning is going to the Hall of Fame speech, I think it was more of a not so veiled shot at his quarterback's play in those 3 series than an actual desire to change his philosophy.
Okay, so you think it was more micro. You think that he is just like reacting to the one game. I think no pun intended here. I think Mike is very micro. Okay.
I think Mike has a lot of points that he likes to make, and they're usually because of short-term frustrations or short-term changes that he wants to see made.
And see, I think if he were to take, and again, I don't know, we're not inside his mind, I don't know, maybe someone can, maybe at the next press conference you can ask him about the deep pass comment. Is that a philosophical thing, or is that just like reacting to one game?
The fact that you hate your quarterback.
Do you hate your quarterback?
How much do you
guys hate each other? How much do you hate each other? Because I just want to use the Buccaneers as an example from last year, and I'm gonna find something else from 2019 that might prove my point 2 years in a row. But people are gonna say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl because, well, Tom Brady, right? And yes, when you have Tom Brady historically, you got a pretty damn good chance to win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But if you start to sort of peel back, all right, let's take the name away for a second. And I'm not going to compare Kirk Cousins to Tom Brady because they're not the same. Their stats might look the same. There's a different level of leadership. Like I hate when people say, well, Brady's a pocket passer.
Right.
Yeah, he's the greatest leader and pocket passer of the last 30 years, right? What were the things, the ingredients, and the blueprint for the Buccaneers and how they won the Super Bowl last year? I'm going to point to two main macro principles. One that Mike Zimmer values already. The Buccaneers were third last season in defensive pressure rate. So they got pressure on opposing quarterbacks something like 30% of snaps because they had a really good defensive front. The Vikings, depending on what they can get from Everson Griffin, DJ Wanham on the opposite, we know what Danielle Hunter is going to give you. Danielle Hunter is one of the great players in the NFL. I like that Sheldon Richardson's going to mix in on passing situations. He is a really good interior pressure guy. I think the Vikings are going to pop back up and be really good at getting pressure as they have been for the majority of Mike Zimmer's career. The other thing that stood out about the Buccaneers offense, Bruce Arians has been like this everywhere. By far, they had the most deep pass attempts of any team in the NFL. And that's something that Tom Brady wasn't comfortable with. Like, those New England offenses would take shots once in a while, but they were predicated on short, intermediate, crossing routes, like Julian Edelman, right? Even the passes to Gronk up the seam, like those aren't 40-yard passes. Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, right?
Yes.
Like, that was a challenge in the first half of the year for Tom Brady, throwing the ball deep. Now you need your offensive line to hold up. It all came together for them at the end. And again, they have Tom Brady, so it's hard to do an apples to apples here. But if you want to simplify the macros here, what were the biggest, most important macro principles for why the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl? They were great at getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and they were great at hitting home run deep balls and pushing the ball, driving it down the field. The Vikings should have half of that equation. And my plea to Mike Zimmer is, as you're influencing Clint Kubiak and the offensive strategy, push that aggressive agenda. Play action. You guys are great at play action. Now, again, offensive line, you can't have Rashad Hill getting bowled over. You can't have Garrett Bradbury getting forklifted. So those are things that are going to play into your play calling. But if he is indeed open to changing his macro mindset offensively, I think it could be great for this team. And it piqued my interest when he said that earlier. I was like, whoa, Mike. Interesting. Mike, little learning some lessons here. So, but you think it's micro?
I think it's Yep. Okay. Yep. I think he watched Kirk play and thought, that's what I'm getting. You know, Mike always wants the car. Mike doesn't want to take care of the car. He just wants the car to run really well. He wants to get that puppy on the Autobahn and go 115. And it's like, yeah, but Mike, you got to give the car some love. It needs oil. And Mike's like, no. Right. I want it to go 115.
Okay.
But that's my interpretation, because I think that I've tried to look for, since Kirk came back from the quarantine thing, I've tried to look for potential shots, because he's going to take shots. Like, he's frustrated by this now.
Yeah.
And
all right. Okay.
But yeah, I'm with you on the philosophical discussion here, because you do pay Kirk enough, and we've talked about this a lot. Kirk can throw that pass. That's the thing, I've never gotten about this whole thing.
Yes, and Jefferson. I mean, Diggs could catch that pass. Jefferson could catch that pass. Thielen caught that pass in a freaking playoff game to clinch it.
And he caught that pass, I believe, against Philadelphia in year one of Kirk on a beautiful play. I mean, Kirk can throw that ball. Diggs caught that ball a bunch. And there's a big difference between the interception that Kirk threw to start the Falcons game, which was he didn't see the linebacker. It was awful, okay? I got a problem with that. But if you're going deep and you get picked off sometimes, that's a very different looking INT. It's still in the stats, but it's a very different feel than what the hell was that pass.
Yeah. So yeah. Yes, Kirk, we do like that. We also like Surly Beer on the show here.
Let's see.
Pretty much our favorite. And I see all the people tweeting photos, and that's really cool. Like, people just taking photos of their...
coming, Jay Zolgad, Zulgad on Twitter. So let's see. Hold on a second here. So Friday night's coming. Preseason game 3 is coming. Today's Thursday, correct? You know what I think it's time to do? I think it's time to get out to your local liquor store and pick up that 6-pack or more Surly Furious. Because the great thing is, Surly, and especially Furious, gives you the opportunity to celebrate and be happy if preseason game 3 goes well. But let's say Kirk comes out, because he's going to play. Let's say Kirk comes out, he doesn't play well, and you're furious. Well, you can drown your sorrows. Drink responsibly, of course. with a Furious.
Yeah, you think we can get Surly to change their tagline to "Drown your sorrows"
Drown
if the Vikings
your sorrows.
lose?
You know what? You never know. I'll talk to him. Minnesota's favorite IPA. You do enough settling in life, crack open a Surly Furious. Enjoy the IPA that revolutionized Minnesota craft beer. Don't settle. Go get that Surly today.
Also, thank you guys. When you support our sponsors and partners, you're supporting us, and you're keeping this thing going forward. It's been a great year for Purple Daily, the Marconi finalist Purple Daily, by the way. And we're pumped for the season to start. Also, a shout out to Moon Motorsport, celebrating 50 years as a family-owned and operated multi-line dealer in Monticello. So if you're interested in ATVs, side-by-sides, motorcycles, snowmobiles, this is the most exciting collection of power sports vehicles in the region. 10 different well-known brands, and just a bunch of smart industry professionals that are dedicated to power sports and the entire experience. So check them out. Either just stop in Monticello or go to moonmotorsports.com today.
You like that? You like that?
Boys, it's time for the random Viking of the week, where I pit you guys against each other. We'll get to Judd's camp notes here shortly. But Judd, I believe, has had the upper hand in recent iterations of Random Viking of the Week. We've given you Tavares Jackson. Declan scored that one within like 3 syllables of my first clue.
Yep.
Kelly Campbell, Leroy Horde, Jerome Felton. And this Random Viking of the Week. Here are the rules. I will give out a series of clues, sort of one by one. You guys each get 3 incorrect guesses before you're just eliminated. And you can guess whenever you want. Just shout out a guess. You can ask me questions, yes or no questions. I am not obligated to answer.
Yep.
Those are the rules.
All right.
All right, we'll start with the clues here. This Random Viking of the Week is originally from Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
Should narrow it down quite a bit. There's not that many people in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no.
This Random Viking of the Week played college football in the Pac-12. This Random Viking of the Week played for more teams than just the Vikings. Or I should say the Vikings... well, I'll phrase it this way. The Vikings were his first team.
Okay.
This Random Viking of the Week stands 6 feet tall and weighs 204 pounds. Hailing
Only 6
from
feet.
Los Angeles, California.
He's not that big.
6 foot, 204. Fighting out of the blue corner.
204. Okay.
Okay.
This Random Viking of the Week has a 5-syllable name. So first and last name. People were ripping Declan for this because
Yeah,
I gave you
yeah.
a 4-syllable name last
Yeah.
week,
I-
and you might have just forgotten that clue.
Yeah, there's these fine things sometimes called motor skills that I lack, and yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
Oh man, so people were making fun of you for that. I like how you threw it right back at the listeners. 5-syllable?
Yes. So, uh-huh.
Yep.
Huh.
No, I know.
All right. Okay.
No. I'm running through. 6 feet 204 is not that big.
I mean, there's a lot of football players that are
Right.
around
But
that.
at first I was thinking like defensive line.
He's not a defensive tackle. I'll give you
or
that.
like
Clint.
linebacker.
It's not Pat Williams.
Yeah, he's not from Los Angeles. Smarty
It's
pants.
not
Okay,
Phil
keep going.
Lodeholt. Yeah.
I tried to defend Declan, and then
It's
he
also
came
not
with that.
5 syllables.
All right. keep going.
Yeah, it's not. It's not Jerry Ball.
Yeah.
I just threw out a name.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. This Random Viking of the Week was undrafted. This Random Viking of the Week played 4 years with the Vikings.
4 years undrafted.
This Random Viking of the Week never scored a touchdown with the Vikings.
Okay, so it's an offensive player. I'm to take it by that clue.
Is that a question to me?
Yes.
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. I'm
Actually, you know
assuming
what?
it is.
You know what? I will. It's a
Okay.
defensive player.
Oh, never scored a touchdown.
I'm next level here, man. All right? I'm here to throw you off.
Okay, so it's a defensive back.
This random Viking of the week played for Brad Childress.
Hold on. No.
This random Viking of the week
No.
played in the secondary.
Yeah, I figured that one out. Played for Brad Childress.
This random Viking of the week became a full-time starter in 2010. He went from undrafted to being a full-time starter in 2010.
But maybe not with the Vikings.
With the Vikings.
Oh, with the Vikings. Okay.
I'll take a stab.
Dex
Marcus
has got it.
McCauley.
No, he was drafted.
It's a really good guess, though.
Third round.
He was a
pick.
third-round pick.
Okay.
Third-round pick.
Hold on. So 2010,
I had no idea he went to college. He just matched 5 syllables and he was a defensive back.
which is when Brad got fired. So it's the year that Brad got fired. Wait,
This random Viking of the week was probably more known
I think I got it.
for off-the-field things than on-the-field things.
Off the field. Whoa. Hold on. Okay, so.
And that doesn't necessarily mean bad. His story, I will say, his story as a player, people were interested in non-on-the-field things with this player. This player picked off 3 passes in 2010 and scored 2 touchdowns later with the Kansas City Chiefs, who he also played for.
Oh, God.
Oh.
This
I got
player...
It.
Oh,
I got it.
Judd's got it.
Hussein Abdullah.
There it is.
Damn.
Hussein Abdullah. So my off the field thing is, my other clue was going to be
Ramadan.
he sometimes wouldn't eat during practice.
Yeah, you'd fast.
Because practicing his religion and during Ramadan,
Muslim, yeah.
from when the sun comes up till it goes down, you fast.
Yep.
And
But he didn't tell him the first year, and so he was like almost passing out.
Right.
They're like, dude, why aren't you? No, he didn't eat or drink. He didn't drink water.
yeah, and he's been very philanthropic. His brother played in the NFL. A great dude. Hussein Abdullah, just an all-time good guy.
I think he might have won or was nominated a couple times for Walter Payton Award. Like I'm
Might have been, yeah.
or that might have been
That
his brother.
sounds
I forget
accurate.
which show. Yeah.
He did a ton of great work off the field. So there's your random Viking of the week
our score
here on Purple Daily. So it looks like Declan has 1 to Judd's 4. So Judd is up 4. Declan, is there a wheelhouse here for you? I mean, I feel like if I go
mean-
back too far, like if I go into the 90s, are you just totally screwed?
Yeah, I'm toast. I would say anywhere between 2000,
I got
2000.
Because I'm going to go 90s for at least some of these, but
Yeah, I get
we'll
that.
try and keep it within
I
the
got
last
no sympathy for the guy who unleashed the 2010-11 Wild on me. Keep him coming.
Yeah, keep
right.
it. It's fine.
You can find Random Season Recall on Mackie and Judd every single week.
10-11 Wild.
Yeah.
Andrew Brunette, 45 years old.
All right, let's get to Judd's camp notes here. Judd's camp notes presented by the Minnesota Lottery's Vikings scratch games. Check these things out. Say I'm into Vikings scratch games. $5 games win you up to $100,000. $2 games up to $15,000. Great second chance prizes for Vikings tickets and merchandise. So get pumped and say I'm into Viking scratch games from the Minnesota Lottery. Must be 18 or older to play. All right, Judd, what do you got from Vikings camp here?
Okay, so the regular season is set to start in a couple of weeks. It's September 12th against the Bengals. And we talked about this on Mackie and Judd as well, but it's worth revisiting here. As we approach opening day, this is a time when the Vikings have traditionally done at least one big contract extension. A year ago, it was the day before the opener against Green Bay, Dalvin Cook. Go way back when, the day before the opener and the San Diego Chargers at the time in San Diego, Adrian Peterson. So the
Chargers.
Chargers.
Go Chargers.
The two candidates for
Get to the chopper.
extension.
toys to the carpet.
The two candidates for extensions are Harrison Smith, who's in the last year of his contract with no guaranteed cash left. And as Doogie has told us, there have been extensive talks there going back, I think, to the springtime. The second candidate is right tackle Brian O'Neill, both in very different places in their lives and careers, because O'Neill is going to be coming to the end of his 4-year rookie contract. There's no 5th year because he's not a first-round pick. Harrison Smith is 32, and so he's more along the lines of trying to set up for what would be almost certainly his final contract. Let's start with Harrison Smith and trying to fill in Dex handicap which one gets paid sooner, okay? Harrison Smith, it looks like there might be a hiccup there in the contract talks based on the fact that Jamal Adams, who's 25, an outstanding safety for the Seattle Seahawks, recently received a 4-year, $70 million contract that includes $38 million, that's the key figure, guaranteed, making him the highest paid safety in the National Football League. The difference is the age, 25 for Adams, 32 for Smith. Nonetheless, Smith remains very good and very effective, and so there's no question that his camp would look at what Jamal Adams got, and they might not want the same term, but they probably want sort of some of the same type of cash as far as average annual value.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. So I don't think it's tough when you're 6 or 7 years older than Jamal Adams in his prime to use that as a comp, but I understand that him raising the top, like he raised the ceiling of what safeties get paid, and so I get why that would be a pause point. I think they're going to figure something out with Harrison Smith. I think he probably wants to retire as a Viking. This is the last year of his contract, and so if they're haggling over like a couple $1 million here and there, like Brzezinski will just find a way. To me, the biggest, most important one is Brian O'Neill. You need Brian O'Neill. He's in his prime. You need him for like the next 5 years. And I predicted this as a bonus write that down prediction on Mackie and Judd earlier. I think they're going to wind up agreeing to something that slots him in behind Ramczyk and Braden Smith. So Pro Football Focus has those guys as the 5th and 6th best right tackles in the NFL last year. Brian O'Neill was 10th, which is really good. It's above average. He's not an elite right tackle, but compared to some of his coworkers on the offensive line, he might as well be elite.
Yeah.
He's the best offensive lineman the Vikings have.
No question.
So they have to pay him. His agent knows they have to pay him. My guess is it comes down where he's a top 5 paid right tackle and gets his payday. I don't even know what the hang-up would be. Like, just make him a top 5 paid right tackle and be done with it. And I think that's going to happen in the next week and a half. So that's where I'm at. He's really important. You figure him out first, and then if it comes to like having to, hit free agency with Harrison Smith, it would be tough. But honestly, if you're Harrison Smith, you're probably kind of wondering what this looks like beyond 2021 too. If you love Mike Zimmer, wouldn't you want to know that he's coaching in 2022?
Smith could step in here and tell his people, get it done. Like, I want to be there. I want to end my career there. I will take less. That's fine. My guess is at this point in time, both the O'Neill and Smith negotiations are being driven solely by the agents. O'Neill will probably just wait and see. Smith is at probably the point in his life where he will want the last word.
Yeah.
But where I sort of disagree with you on Brzezinski will get Smith's contract done is this. It can't be long term. Like, he's 32, so you're not going to be like, we'll give you 5 years. On a short-term contract, and we're seeing this right now with Kirk. On a short-term deal, like, you can't push the cap down. Like, you can't be like, okay, here's what we'll do. Voidable years in 2032, and we'll do this and that.
Yeah.
O'Neill's contract gives you a lot of wiggle room to get creative and to potentially create a contract where it looks great, it is really good, but you're not taking immediate cap hits. The Smith contract is probably one where you will have no choice but you take immediate cap hits. And so the question becomes, does Harrison step in and say, get it done, or does he go down the road that you just talked about, Phil, which is, well, if Zimmer gets fired and I can go to the Buccaneers and Tom Brady will be 42 or 43, but one more chance.
Yeah.
That's where the Smith negotiation gets more dicey to me, because there's only so much salary cap magic that you can work when you're dealing with a short-term contract.
Yeah. The Super Bowl thing is definitely going to be a priority for Harrison Smith. Obviously, in a perfect world, he'd like to just win a Super Bowl in a Vikings uniform and just become that legend. But if they don't go as far as everyone wants this year, it probably makes sense for him to be a free agent, and then he can decide if he wants to re-sign with the Vikings, if Mike Zimmer's back or not. Like, he can make that decision. And then if things are headed toward more of a rebuild or something, which would be a rarity. Like, the Vikings have only really rebuilt like once in the last 20 years with the Christian Ponder draft pick. I guess kind of at the beginning of the Zimmer because they transitioned to Teddy.
They
but,
don't like to rebuild, though. You're right.
Yeah, they like to just reload.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think O'Neal gets done for sure. We'll see about Harrison, I guess.
I would agree.
All right, what else is in your camp notes?
Okay, so Zimmer came out yesterday and said that Friday night against the Chiefs, he is going to have the same starters play. He said it's going to be very similar to the Colts game last Saturday. Kirk will play. The starting offensive line will play. Jefferson, Thielen, I think, no way. Cook, no way. Patrick Peterson, no. But it sounds like he's going to, and we don't know how long, but he's going to run back what the plan was last week. I guess I'm curious too, does he run back as much of the defense? Because I thought the defensive guys showed pretty well. The offensive guys did not, and Kirk did not. And you know what, Phil? I mean, let's cut through the crap again. I think that playing Kirk more in this game also has to do with the fact that, one, he's not looked great in practice, and two, Mike wants to see more, and Mike is not exactly thrilled with Kirk. Now, in fairness, I believe Andy Reid came out and said yesterday very clearly that his starters will play the entire first half. So it's not all punishment, but minus Thielen and Jefferson and Cook, I think that Mike wants to see more from Kirk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard because it's like, yeah, they haven't played much in the preseason and weapons have been out. It's really hard to evaluate the first team offense without Jefferson and Thielen and Cook. So I'm almost, I don't know, I'm not quite like panicking about the first team offense. I would want to see more from Kirk too if I were Zimmer.
Agreed.
But it's, again, like, until those guys are all on the field at the same time, it's really hard to judge anything they're doing offensively. So, but there does seem to be tension in the air between Zimmer and Cousins throughout the entire preseason.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not, obviously those guys aren't Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. Like, they're not texting late at night with each other schematically.
You know what Mike wants?
I don't think they love each other.
It's just so clear. Mike desperately wants Phil Simms and what Phil had with Parcells, where he could berate him on the sideline, where he could tell him he was stupid, where Phil told Bill to bleep off, and then went out and played like Phil Simms.
So those guys didn't really get along either back in the day?
Oh, Parcells was brutal to Phil Simms, but Phil Simms didn't care and was good.
And Mike Zimmer's idol and mentor is Bill Parcells.
I think if Kirk Cousins on the sideline yelled at Mike F off, Mike would hug and kiss him. I think Mike wants that.
I agree. I think he wants that fire. Yeah.
F you, go, shut up, and coach defense. I've got this. And
I would love to see that happen. I think that would be a great sign. Yeah.
So anyway.
All right.
I got one more.
Yeah.
This falls under the category, gentlemen. Genius or nepotism? Adam Zimmer, for a second consecutive game, will be given the chores of calling the Vikings defense. He did it against the Colts. Like, this is Mike's pride and joy and was for a long time. Adam called the defense against the Colts, and, Mike said, and he's not wrong, did a nice job. He will be allowed to do it again against the Chiefs. Mike basically said, Mike said a few things about this, and it was hilarious. First of all, he said, I would prefer not to have to do it, and then said, but I'm probably the best. And second, he also said, I shouldn't say this, which means he's going to say it, and it's fantastic. But I think it's tougher as a head coach to call defense than it is for the offensive head coaches to call the offensive plays.
Okay.
So he said calling defenses, what I'm doing and trying to coach is probably more difficult than what like Sean McVay or
I think I believe that because you're trying to react to what the offense is doing.
Yeah, you're not setting the tempo.
Like, yeah, you're on offense. You're dictating what's happening offensively, and now you're also reacting to like what's working, what's not. But I think you're trying to process what's the offense doing to us, and what plays do we call, and what personnel is available or not.
Right. But
and also you're cycling in like, I mean, you're not in charge of cycling in like defensive ends. That's the position coach.
Right.
But you're also trying to figure out, is Everson on the field right now? Or is he dinged? Is he out of gas? Like,
yeah, a lot to it. But my question is this. Is this a good move by Mike if he considers, and I don't think that he will, but if he were to at least consider permanently turning over the defensive play calling to his son, is that a good move because it would theoretically free him up to do more as a head coach, or is that a move made because he loves his son?
Well, just like our deep passing conversation off the top of this episode, is he having some sort of like philosophical breakthrough, understanding that deep passes could be great for this football team, or is he just pissed that they went 3 and out 3 times?
Right.
You know, it's hard to tell sometimes with Zim. Now, if he had that extra free time for whatever reason, whether it's nepotism or it's strategy, if he had that extra free time, in theory, it would free him up to go have a conversation 2 or 3 times a game with the quarterback's coach, the quarterback, and the offensive line, right? All right, guys, hey, I'm seeing some things here. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's really, like when he peeks his head into a huddle on the sidelines, it's almost always the defensive huddle.
Yes.
But when those guys are on the field and Adam Zimmer's calling plays, Zimmer would have a little free time, maybe go pop his head over into an offensive huddle, right?
I've always thought trying to call plays and coach a game would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you want that time? Like if you had to go away for 2 minutes and say, I got to go talk to my quarterback, hopefully. But because he's always calling defensive plays, he doesn't even have time to go talk to his quarterback while the quarterback's on the bench because he's calling defensive plays.
And you can't, and I just don't see how, I think as a head coach, ideally, you see the game from a 10,000-foot view. And I don't see how you can do that if you're going to be hyper-focused on one side of the football.
Yep. And like clock management, think about how important it is for you to have a full, like when there's 8 minutes on the clock, you should be thinking about, okay, once it gets down to 4, once it gets down to 2.5, how many timeouts do we have? What types of plays should we be calling to maximize clock and position on the field?
And
right?
challenges. Like if you're calling defense, that means that you're basically thinking at least a play, if not 2 ahead.
Yes.
But now I'm supposed to watch this play closely, and I probably missed it that we might challenge. I just think there's so many micro in-game things that get taken away when you're trying to basically think ahead to the next play immediately and not absorb the play that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder, the Vikings have not, under Mike Zimmer, they have not always been great at like the last 2 or 3 or 4 minutes of a half of like the clock management has left something to be desired. He's not like running circles around like a great Madden player, right? He's not running circles around his opponents with clock management. And a lot of that's because he's constantly thinking about defensive scheming and play calling during the game.
Yes.
So, interesting stuff. Judd's camp notes here on Purple
Notes.
Daily. An inside glimpse at what's happening inside the Vikings practice facility. Our friends at Federated are helping business owners across the Twin Cities and beyond, and they've been doing so for over 100 years. They're based in Owatonna. They're one of us, so to speak, and they provide risk management resources and tools and expertise for you business owners out there. They are basically like your offensive line trying to thwart defensive risks at getting to your quarterback. So if you feel like your current partner or company is not holding up, maybe like the Vikings offensive line last year, check out federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right, boys. That's a wrap on today's episode of Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company, Daily Vikings Entertainment. Don't forget, check out Judd's written work on scorenorth.com, and you can also check out on scorenorth.com and the app your way to hang out with Judd and Declan in a Go for Football suite on September 11th and get a pair of Chill Boys. So go check out the Score North app, and you can register to hang out with Judd and Declan, a couple beverages, watch a little Go for Football.
Chill Boys, too. I mean, you go home with Chill Boys.
That's a win. Everyone's just going to be standing around on their Chill Boys, drinking beer. It's going to be great.
That's a win for you if you get to
I've thought about it numerous times, yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.